presenting sponsors, Deloitte, and we have a great session coming up. Caitlin Kennedy, if you want to join me on stage. All right, and we're going to get started with a fireside on audit and controls. Welcome, Caitlin. Thank you so much for joining. How are you?
I'm good. I would have thought people were rushing back from lunch to hear about internal controls.
I
know. We'll trickle in here.
Audits are important, right? We're all here because audits are, in fact, important. Caitlin, why don't we start? Maybe tell us a little bit about your role at Deloitte.
Sure. So I am a managing director in our audit and assurance practice. I've been in the Bay Area about 6 years and solely serving blockchain and crypto clients over those last 6 years. A lot of my client friends taking pictures of me in the audience right now. Great. But yeah, shout out to the clients here and just everyone operating this space.
Yeah, great. Well, what should companies in the digital asset space consider when they're designing internal controls?
Yeah, so I think depending on where you are as a company, whether you're a startup, whether you're gearing up to do an IPO, you can all kind of break it down and come back to these foundational basics, I'll call them. And the three things I like to talk about are completeness and accuracy of data, reconciliations.
So important.
And just overall retaining that information and supporting documentation.
Yeah. So when it comes to supporting documentation, maybe tell me a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so we heard from our accounting panel earlier. I'm sure everyone was also ears up for that one like me. But you heard a lot of, it depends, right? It depends on the answer. It depends on how you're using the asset. It depends, right? When it comes to audit and internal control, I would argue, I don't say it depends. It very much matters that you have that, your position documented, right? And so what we like to see when we come in is that you have initial thoughts, right? You have a position on what are you using your assets for? Are you trading them? Are you holding them? And that might drive the accounting conclusion. But from a control lens, it's really what's management's process for going through that kind of analysis, and is it documented?
Yeah. And what about reconciliation?
Yes, I feel like we should put the recon slide back up that Pat had. I mean, that was just music to my ears, right? So one of the unique things about operating in this space, and kind of the beauty of blockchain and distributed ledgers and why we love them so much, is that publicly available information, right? It's an auditor's dream. Everything's there. It's our source of truth. But that only gets you so far, right? If you are, not maintaining a complete and accurate list of your own digital assets and not doing your own internal reconciliation, it's going to be really challenging for, call it an external auditor, maybe your customers, your regulators, your investors, to kind of have faith in, yes, I know where my assets are. I know that they're reconciling every month. I'm comparing to blockchain. And so they're just, if you take away anything, it's just critical to have that rec in place.
Yeah. That can be harder than it seems, though. What are some challenges that you've seen companies come across?
Definitely. Just the vast amount of data in this space, and I think scaling your systems to be able to capture that. I think most people in the room are probably familiar with working in a manual spreadsheet or a Google sheet, and how many times that kind of gets stale or someone fat fingers something. So really shifting from that kind of manual and labor-intensive process of these manual spreadsheets and relying on systems and flow of data and controls around those interfaces and kind of that source data that's comprising your internal records.
Yeah, no, flow of data and having the right information and technology in place makes it a lot easier. So I'm sure some companies here are maybe moving towards their first audit. So do you have any advice for anyone who is just getting ready for their first audit?
Yeah, one, don't be afraid, right? The auditors, we're really are here to help. And I think what's often kind of misconstrued or maybe not clear is that you don't necessarily need to be 100% ready for like day one. My financials are perfect. I have all my support, all of that. And what's unique about this space and what we do a lot in our advisory practice through Deloitte is what we call audit readiness. Mm-hmm. And this is sort of where we get in, work with companies, work with management, kind of see their current state, walk it through with them, whether it's a process walkthrough of your controls, your systems, and kind of help identify where those gaps might be before they get into, that audit relationship.
Yeah. What about things like SOC reports? How do you get ready for those? Should you look at other people's SOC reports?
Yes, so two lenses here when it comes to service providers and SOC reports, right? So Bitwave just showed us a ton of great tools. So if as an external auditor, if I'm coming into a company and you're telling me, oh, all of our internal records, we use Bitwave, it's great. Like, are you done? And no, my question would be, well, how are you as management comfortable with that service provider's controls? And oftentimes we see SOC 1 reports in this industry. Those are very important. They, the same way you would hire a payroll company to process your payroll, you want to make sure if you're using a third party or service org in this space that they are, on that way to either having a SOC 1, Type 2 available, or getting there.
Yeah. What if you do identify a gap, like in someone's SOC report, or maybe your auditor, like if you find a gap in your own process, what should you do then?
I think it depends where you are in the journey.
Yeah, it is always a journey.
Yeah,
it is.
It's certainly a journey, and that's the beauty of kind of getting started early and thinking about controls early on, even though you may not be ready for that public exit or next acquisition. But identifying those gaps, and I guess I'd encourage it's okay to have those and be just upfront about it, right? And talk to your advisors, talk to your internal, finance, and a lot of times the sales and products teams are moving really fast and things are great and everything's, doing really well in the business, but us back office and the accounting books and records, right, is equally important.
Yeah,
so.
Having good books and records and things like evidence of ownership. Maybe talk to us a little bit of how you can demonstrate that to an auditor.
Yeah. So ownership of assets is huge in this space, right? We don't have someone that we can send an external confirmation to. I can't go confirm with the Bitcoin blockchain. Like how much?
I would say there are no receipts. Like
it's very challenging, I'd say, and but again, that's the beauty of the decentralized nature of what we're doing here. And so in that case, that goes back to sort of my initial comments on completeness and accuracy of your listing, right? And part of not only tracking all of your assets, but where are those private keys stored? Are you self-custodying them? Are you using a third party, a service org? And then really from an audit lens, how we demonstrate evidence of rights to those assets is whether or not you control that private key. And so you can demonstrate that through on-chain movement, through signing messages. I'm sure, hopefully this is sounding familiar to a lot of you, but yeah, it's critical to, again, just make sure that list is complete, accurate, you have controls over the transactions going in and out that help you get there.
And that your internal controls and process are documented too, right? It's got to be on paper and people have to both follow it and have it written down. So we have a couple minutes left. Maybe talk to us on some final thoughts. What are some key takeaways?
I think, just touching back on those foundational basics, again, scaling your internal control journey kind of goes along with how you're scaling your company, right? If you're, just getting started, like don't try to boil the ocean, right? The internal controls can be a little intimidating when people hear it, and it's not necessarily means that you're at that like SOX, PCOB level. You may just focus on the foundation, right? Is our asset listing complete? Do we have controls over making changes to that listing so that we know where our assets are? And then again, really critical to make sure those third parties that you're using, that you're thinking about their controls, and then the complementary user controls that should be at your company too.
Yeah, and asking for help too, right? You don't have to figure out an entire audit and control and internal control and SOC process yourself. Right? There are advisors and folks in the space who have done it and have done it successfully that you can reach out to for help.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Any other final thoughts?
I don't think so. Thank you so much for having me. My first EDAS, so happy to represent the audit side. And
yes, thank you so much. All right, thank you.